Alright, what's up guys, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh video. So today's video, for the first time, we have a CGC return. They opened for grading Yu-Gi-Oh cards like 1 or 2 months ago. I didn't send a sub immediately, but after I'd had a bit of time to kind of put some cards together that I thought would make sense to send to CGC, I sent off a sub with 6 cards in it. We have those cards back now, so we're going to look at it, kind of just review the service, the overall experience of sending to CGC. So the first card is the big talking point and disappointment, to be honest, from the sub. This is a misprinted SDK Blue Eyes Glossy Unlimited print. It has no name or imprint up at the top. CGC are kind of known for grading misprints. They're meant to be the experts on that in the grading world. So I thought this card would look pretty cool in a CGC slab, and it would be nice to have the error acknowledged. And this was like the first card I set aside as something I would send to CGC. Now, as you can see, they didn't actually grade it, but I have a lot of complaints, not only with the fact that they didn't grade it and their reasons, but also just the whole customer experience that I went through. So you can see it says questionable authenticity on the label they sent back, and on the back they give a reason why they're not going to grade something. And they said it's easy to replicate the error. That was their reason for not grading it. Now, the thing with no-name errors, I mean, they're one of the most common misprints in Yu-Gi-Oh, especially I'd say for the modern stuff. And you can divide them into the ones which have the imprint of the name still there and just no ink, and the ones which have no imprint, which this Blue Eyes is one of those. Like you guys can see, there's no evidence that this ever had a title. There's no imprint there. Now, if it had an imprint, I could understand them not wanting to grade it, because in theory, I mean, I wouldn't call it easy to replicate like they did on the forum, but in theory, you can remove the gold ink from a title and just be left with the imprint of the title there, with no ink. On an old school print like this, to be honest, I've never seen it done successfully. I don't think it can really be replicated perfectly, but that's a different question because this card doesn't have the imprint. So there's no reason that they wouldn't grade it. Now, when I got the email to say the submission was done, they didn't tell me anything about not grading the card, and I was charged for all 6 cards that I sent. So I assumed the card had been graded, and it's just when I received the submission back that I suddenly found out, this hadn't been graded, even though it had been charged. After I got it back, I sent them an email, quite a long email, kind of explaining why, they should be grading cards like this. So I wanted to get the card still graded, and also just saying that I really wasn't happy with the experience. I never received a response to the email, which is another level of disappointment. And on top of that, so about 2 or 3 days after I sent the email, I suddenly got a $50 refund, which was the total grading fee for this, because they charge extra for subgrades and errors on top of the standard grading fee. So I got the $50 refund, which I assume is for this card. But again, there was no communication whatsoever. And so although it's better to have had the refund than nothing, in a sense, it's kind of worse as well, because it means I know that they read the email. They saw everything that I wrote, this long, very polite email that I sent them, and they just decided not to reply at all with any kind of justification for how they acted. So yeah, it's very disappointing. And even going beyond that, I sent this off in a brand new penny sleeve with a pull tab on the back. That's how I always send my cards to get graded. They sent it back in this old, dirty Ultra Pro sleeve that they just had lying around. You can see it's really scuffed up and dirty. And in an unbranded card saver instead of the card saver 1, which is what I normally use. So yeah, just very disappointing, everything about it, just extremely unprofessional, and especially considering that, the reason that they didn't grade the card isn't even valid in the first place. That's just really disappointing. I'd like to see them do better, but for now, hard to recommend sending misprints to them based on my experience. The next card I also wasn't very happy about. This is a miscut, as well as a foil line error. You can see there, glossy first edition right arm. So this one, they labeled it as an error, and if you check the back, that's where it tells you what the error is with your card. It says minor miscut, which, yeah, I guess it's fair enough. It's definitely miscut because it's missing part of the border up here, but you can get crazier miscuts, so I can understand that. I'm not sure why they didn't label the foil line, because they do label it normally, so I guess maybe they only have room for one error to be labeled on the label or something like that. Now, the grade with this card is actually fine. I think, yeah, I mean, I thought it could maybe get a CGC 7 if it got a 6 on surface, but the surface definitely has just some issues, like kind of bumpiness on the back. So I didn't expect a high grade. That's not my complaint with the card. My complaint is the way they slapped it. So CGC in general is kind of one of their strong selling points is the fact that they have an extremely crystal clear slab, even clearer than a PSA slab with no inner sleeve or anything like that. So the cards I sent, a lot of the reason that I sent them was just thinking they would display really nicely in a CGC slab. So I was very surprised when I got this one back because it actually has this thick inner sleeve, just like a BGS case on it. And on top of that, if you guys look up in the top right corner, there's like a big hair, like an eyelash or something, just sticking right over the card inside the slab. And there's lots of other debris in this one as well. So BGS sometimes has little bits of stuff to get in the case. I've never had like a hair in a BGS case before. And normally there's not as much debris as this. So yeah, it's another big like disappointment, I guess, from the submission because I was expecting this to display like better or more clearly than it would in a BGS case, and like in practice, it's worse. So yeah, those are the two big disappointments from the sub. It does get a bit better after that. The other cards I sent were all foil line errors, so similar to the right arm there, but not with any other misprints. So you can see this guy has the line here. And I do like the fact that CGC labeled them as errors, and on the back you can see it says foil line. That's awesome. That's something that PSA and BGS don't do, and they also don't impact the surface grade with CGC, which is crucial for grading this kind of stuff. Because with PSA and BGS, you'll get like 8s and 9s, even on a gem mint card if it's got that line, which just makes it really tough to send cards to them which have that error. So the grade on this card is actually kind of generous, I guess, which I don't know if that's something you necessarily complain about, but it's concerning to see like how they grade stuff because this Gaia, it has like some pretty big foil scratches. Those are on the case, but it has some scratching, has quite a bit of scratching on the back as well, which I think you guys can see that even through the camera. But the main thing is that it has like some big pin dents down here, like 3 pretty obvious pin dents. So with PSA, I'd expect this to grade pretty much a 6 every time. I wouldn't expect higher than a 6. I figured with CGC, like the surface might get a 5 to a 6, and so overall it gets like a 6 to a 7. But they actually gave it a 7, which in theory is a near mint surface. So yeah, I mean, I don't really agree with that. I think it's very generous for what the card is. In a sense, I'm not complaining because it means it gets an 8, which is a very good grade for the card. But yeah, again, it's like another point of concern about CGC. I'm not sure how like accurate their grading scale is, or also just how well calibrated it is. Because if that's a 7 surface, that just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So the next couple of cards are better. Both of the next couple of cards got like pretty much what I expected. This is a line error dark hole. You can see it got the 10s on corners and edges, and I think those are pretty much fair. It's very, very clean. It just has a couple of like funny spots where I almost wonder if it was in an acidic sleeve or something like that. They kind of just ate away at the back surface a little bit. So because of that, I knew the surface grade wouldn't be that good. Centering is pretty significantly shifted, so I think the 8.5 makes sense. So yeah, this is actually like, you know, an accurately graded card. I'm happy with it. It's labeled correctly. No complaints on that one. And we also sent a trap hole with the same error. Again, they labeled it. And the grade on this one is maybe a little bit unexpected. The overall grade I expected 8.5 or 9. But the fact that centering was the worst subgrade was surprising because the centering on this card is, to be honest, not bad. I'd say that could pass for a PSA 10 on a good day. But on the other hand, it does have, I don't know how easy it is to see on camera, but it does have some like little bits of edge wear all around the back, as well as some pretty obvious corner wear. And it got 9 corners, 9.5 edges, which, again, that's like higher than I'd expect from BGS, for example, if I was looking at BGS subgrades. Obviously, there's always inconsistencies, but just going on these handful of cards I've sent, I do have some concerns about the subgrade system with CGC and how accurate it is. So yeah, those are all, that's 4 of the 5 cards now. I guess 5 of the 6 if you include the blue eyes I didn't grade. Now the final card is definitely the highlight of the submission. This is a foil line unlimited glossy dark magician from SDY. And you guys can see this actually got the Pristine 10, which is very cool. And what's nice about this is I genuinely thought it could get this grade. Like I never would have sent this to BGS because the surface would be like an 8 probably with that really thick, obvious foil line. And just in general, they pretty much never give Pristines anymore for Yu-Gi-Oh cards. So it just would have been like, even in the best case scenario, maybe like a 9 or a weak 9.5. So because of that, I'd never actually submitted it before. But this is another card that I was quite excited to send to CGC because I knew they were going to label the foil line error and not necessarily deduct for the grade. So yeah, it's awesome to see that you can even get a 10 on surface, like the absolute best surface grade, even with a foil line. So this one is very nice. Definitely, like by far the most exciting card I got back from them. And it does kind of make the submission worth it to me because this is a very cool card that I've always wanted to have slabbed up since I got it. And being able to have it slapped up as a CGC 10 with that, gold writing on the grade instead of the black for the other grades they have, that's actually just really cool. And I'm happy to add that one to the collection. So yeah, that pretty much brings us to the end of the video, guys. One other thing I should mention, which again is like more of a complaint about CGC, is this whole wavy glossy labeling. So if I bring back the last slab, you can see they all said glossy, which for these is all accurate. Every single card that I submitted was a glossy print card. But they have a lot of problems with this attribution. So when you submit a card to CGC currently from LOB, SDK, or SDY, first edition or unlimited, you have to say on the submission form if you're submitting a wavy card or a glossy card. So obviously some people wouldn't even know the difference. But aside from that, for unlimited, the majority of cards aren't wavy or glossy, and CGC is labeling every single one as wavy or glossy. It doesn't matter if it's a hollow or a non-hollow from LOB. It has to be wavy or glossy on their system, which makes no sense. It means they're misgrading a ton of cards, like mislabeling them as wavy and glossy when they're just regular 2002, 2003 unlimited. And for first edition started at Kyber and Yugi, you can actually submit the card as wavy on the system. I don't know what happens. I don't know if they would correct it when it got to their facility, but obviously there's no such thing as first edition wavy SDK or SDY. That's been known about for a long time. So I don't know who put that system together or who's like advising them on wavy or glossy, but yeah, it's an absolute mess. They've already misattributed first edition cards as well as all the unlimited ones they're getting wrong. Back when BGS tried labeling wavy and glossy, to be honest, they did a lot better job than that. They did make some mistakes, and I think, even the handful of mistakes they made were unacceptable, and that's why they stopped labeling them. But yeah, CGC is taking it to a whole new level with that wavy glossy stuff. Yeah, I'd like to see them sort it out, but I get the impression from them that they're not really that bothered about it, which is a shame. So yeah, that really is the end of the video now. Overall, I can't say I was that happy with the CGC experience. I did get a couple of grades that, were great, like the Dark Magician, and to be honest, most of the grades were at least what I expected, like the guy being even a generous grade. But just the overall experience of submitting to them, everything that happened with the Blue Eyes and the lack of communication at any point in the process, it makes it hard for me to recommend sending your cards to CGC. Value-wise, you're always going to get worse than PSA or BGS for the same grade. And it just seems like they're not a very reliable service based on, the handful of cards I've sent. Which obviously it's only one submission, so I can't say it's going to apply to every submission, and I'm sure some submissions go better than this. But yeah, just speaking from my personal experience, that's what I'd say. If you're looking for reasons why you would sub cards to CGC, I'd say the slabs feel great in hand. They're very nice quality, very, very sturdy compared to a PSA slab. Like there's no bend or give or take. Very hard to crack them. You'd never be able to crack open a slab by just pulling it like you can with a PSA slab. And as far as I know, they're fairly good with the handling of cards. I don't like the fact that they put my Blue Eyes misprint back in a dirty old sleeve. That makes no sense to me. I can't even imagine how that happened. But aside from that, I haven't really heard of them damaging cards, which happens a lot with PSA and even BGS. So yeah, I guess there are still reasons why you might send to them. Obviously, sending misprints should be a reason to send to them as well, because in theory they grade misprints better than other companies. But it's hard for me to corroborate that, at least for Yu-Gi-Oh cards, based on my experience, because they got it completely wrong with that Blue Eyes on one of the most common variants of Yu-Gi-Oh misprints. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have, guys. We will have some more videos coming soon. There's still a 750 Q&A. I think we've actually hit 800 in the meantime, so that's awesome. Thank you guys for that. I'll try and film that Q&A hopefully later this week. Right now we have about 30, 35 questions, I think. So feel free to still put more questions down in the comments below if you want to see them answered. I'll probably take like one more round of questions on Instagram as well. And then, yeah, after that, I'll put them all together. Try and find like a good hour or something where I can sit down and answer them. And that should be uploaded pretty soon. But yeah, for now, this is Schlost signing out, and I hope you guys all have a great day.